Hey friend, please subscribe and like the video. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 61, and if you passed me in the hallway of St. Elora Medical, you'd think I was what my badge says I am. Night shift scheduler. Navy scrubs, comfortable shoes, hair up with a drugstore clip. I slide coverage grids across plastic clipboards and call nurses when someone's kid spikes a fever at 2 a.m. I'm the woman people say thanks hun to without looking up from their phones. That's fine by me. People see the scrubs. They don't see the foundation charter with my initials on the bottom, or the grant agreement stacked in my home office, or the way the hospital CFO lowers his voice when I ask a question. They don't know that when my husband Thomas died 7 years ago, he left me more than a folded flag and a house with creaking floors. He left me the North Star Fund, a quiet river of money he built a piece at a time from defense manufacturing patents, and a stubborn refusal to spend $1 on anything he couldn't fix himself. "Keep it anonymous," he said a week before the chemo took his hair and his appetite. "Power behaves better when it can't see where the money sits. Lead quietly, Mags." So I did. I kept my modest car, my modest job, and my very immodest endowment a secret, because I wanted one thing more than comfort: peace. My son Ben is 32. He knows I have some savings. He does not know the number. He married Olivia 3 years ago. Olivia is kind in the way people are kind when they're being watched. Sharp elbows wrapped in soft cashmere. Her mother, Judith Reynolds, has the kind of voice that makes restaurant hosts stand straighter, the kind that can slice fruit and feelings in a single sentence. On Tuesday evening, Ben called. His tone was tight, polite, too careful. "Mom, we're having dinner Saturday. Olivia's parents are flying in. They'd love to meet properly." A pause. "Can you make it to the Ashford at 7? There was that word again, the one that sat heavy in my chest lately: properly. Proper homes, proper cars, proper introductions. I stared at the fluorescent light humming over my kitchen sink and thought about the meatloaf cooling on the counter. "Of course," I said. "I'll be there." I wore the same navy wrap dress I've had for 9 years. I pressed it, polished my flats, tucked my wedding band onto its chain around my neck. At the Ashford, the host glanced at my dress before he glanced at his screen. His eyebrows softened when I said Reynolds Party, the way eyebrows learn to soften for the right last names. Ben stood when he saw me. He kissed my cheek, and I felt his relief like a small, warm wind. Olivia rose, too, thin, elegant, in a cream suit that didn't dare wrinkle. "Mrs. Hayes," she said, and I don't know why that stung. "So glad you could join us." Judith arrived on a cloud of perfume and certainty. Her husband Graham trailed like a well-paid shadow. We sat. Bread arrived, wine arrived. The conversation, bright and cold, arrived right behind it. Judith had questions wrapped in silk. "Margaret, darling, you live alone, yes? That must be challenging. Do you manage your own finances? So brave at our age. And do you drive at night? I can't imagine." I answered each politely, the way you answer questions that aren't actually questions. Ben watched me from across the table, his face a careful mask. Olivia measured my answers like teaspoons of sugar. The halibut landed. Judith dabbed her mouth. "Benjamin told us you work nights at the hospital, organizing shifts." She offered the smile people reserve for children handing them dandelions. "How admirable." "Night is when the wheels fall off," I said. "I like fixing wheels." Judith laughed, the way people laugh when they don't think you made a joke. "Well, not everyone needs to be ambitious. Some of us carry the world, others keep it tidy." I folded my napkin and set it on my lap. When the dessert menu came, she waved it away and leaned forward, voice lowering as though kindness were a secret. "Margaret, I hope you won't take offense. Graham and I have been talking. Ben and Olivia are ready for the next step. A house, perhaps a baby soon. She glanced at Olivia's flat stomach, like it owed her something. Your apartment. It's charming in its way, I'm sure, but it seems an inefficient asset. If you sold or perhaps took a reverse mortgage, you could help them with a proper down payment. We're prepared to match whatever you can manage. A beat. Within reason, of course. Mom, Ben said softly, horrified. Olivia's lips tightened. She said nothing. Judith kept going, the way a train keeps going after the engineer realizes the track has ended. And of course we'd make sure you had a place, something manageable, perhaps an assisted living community in Brookmere. They have a shuttle, lovely crafts. She meant out of the way. She meant quietly faded into the wallpaper. I sipped my water. It tasted like the first day of winter. Thank you for the offer, I said, keeping my voice even. I'll consider it. Judith looked gratified, like a cat after the canary stopped moving. Wonderful. We believe in family efficiency. And I believe in timing, I said, which is why I'll give you my answer next Saturday at the St. Elora Foundation Gala. Olivia's head snapped up. You're coming to the gala? I always do, I said, and left the rest in the dark where it belonged. Judith's smile flickered. The gala wasn't for people like me. It was for donors and developers and women who collect gowns like first editions. But the North Star Fund had a table every year, the table with no name on a little bronze plaque, the table that voting members of the board learned not to ignore. Judith recovered. We're honored, then. We're actively involved this year. She glanced at Graham. His eyes slid away. Are you? I asked mildly. Yes, Judith said. We're assisting with a strategic real estate initiative for the hospital. Big things coming. She smiled the way people smile when they've already counted the money. That's when I understood the shape of the night. And the week after, and the fight that was coming, whether I wanted it or not. Because strategic real estate initiative is developer talk for carving the hospital into something you can sell by the square foot, and Judith had said we like a woman who thinks the river changes direction because she asked. Big things, I echoed, smiling back. I'll bring my checkbook. Judith's eyes glittered. Do. I paid the bill with my personal card, not the foundation's, Judith noticed. Her smile tightened a fraction. She filed that away in the drawer where she kept other people's numbers. Outside, the evening air smelled like rain and city and the faint iron tang of an old fight dragging itself up the steps. I went home and took my wedding band off its chain. I held it in my palm and thought about Thomas fixing the yard fence with a stubborn nail between his teeth. Lead quietly, he'd said. Quiet doesn't mean silent. It means steady. It means ready. It means when the lights come up, you already chose your seat. The following Saturday, the St. Elora Foundation Gala glittered like a jewelry box spilled open across the grand ballroom. Chandeliers dripped with crystal, champagne flutes lined up like soldiers at attention. Guests in satin gowns and polished tuxedos shimmered under the light, the kind of crowd that believed charity began and ended with a selfie. I arrived alone. My navy gown was simple but perfectly cut. The only jewelry I wore was Thomas's wedding ring, threaded on a gold chain. The valet didn't recognize me. Few people ever did. But the maitre d', a quiet man who'd worked the gala for 15 years, nodded immediately. "Good evening, Mrs. Hayes," he said softly. "Your table is as always." "Thank you, Marcus." Across the room, I saw Judith Reynolds, radiant in sequins and self-importance, surrounded by the type of people who practiced their laughs. She spotted me, the flicker of surprise quickly replaced by a social smile. "Margaret, I didn't realize you'd be here so early." "I find early is when people are most honest," I said. She laughed, uncertain, then excused herself to a circle of donors from her husband's firm. I let her talk. It was easier that way. Talkers reveal everything if you let silence do its work. At 8:30 sharp, the MC tapped the microphone. "Tonight," he announced, "we honor those whose quiet generosity keeps St. Elora alive." The lights dimmed. A short video rolled, footage of new neonatal equipment, a renovated burn unit, a research wing gleaming with modern glass. None of this, the announcer continued, would exist without the North Star Fund, whose founder prefers anonymity, but whose impact cannot be overstated. Every head turned toward the center table. Judith's lips parted as if she'd swallowed ice. Her gaze darted from the stage to me, sitting calmly, hands folded, expression unreadable. The applause rose, warm and long. I nodded once to the presenter. Nothing more. Judith leaned over, her whisper tight. "You run that fund?" "I steward it," I said. "My husband started it. I promised to keep it alive quietly." Her eyes widened. "But your job helps me stay close to the people we serve," I said. "Titles don't save lives, actions do." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I had no idea. "I know," I said gently. "That's the point." After the program, donors swirled around with champagne, eager to network with whoever could sign the next check. Judith hovered near me, pale beneath her makeup. Her husband Graham tried to recover with a clumsy toast. "To unseen angels among us," he said. "Careful," I replied softly. "They prefer the dark." Ben found me near the exit, his face flushed with realization. "Mom, why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I wanted you to learn value before you learned numbers," I said. "Now you have both." He lowered his head. "I let them treat you like they treat most people they think have less," I finished. "Lesson learned. No need for guilt. Just do better." Olivia stood behind him, silent, eyes glossy with shame. "Mrs. Hayes," she began, but I touched her arm. "It's Margaret, and tonight isn't about apologies. It's about perspective." As I left the ballroom, Judith called after me. "Margaret, please wait." I turned. "We misjudged you," she said quietly. "I misjudged you." I smiled. "No, you judged correctly. You just didn't measure correctly." Outside, rain slicked the pavement again, thin, silver, forgiving. The following days unfolded like quiet ripples after a storm. The gala's aftermath spread quickly. Photos, press releases, whispers. The North Star Fund was no longer faceless, and though I hadn't asked for attention, it arrived anyway. Hospital directors stopped by my desk with rehearsed gratitude. Board members suddenly remembered my name. Even the CFO, who'd once ignored my memos, now spoke softly like someone addressing a fragile relic. I didn't enjoy it. Recognition is a funny thing. It often comes after you no longer need it. But the Reynolds family was another story. By Tuesday, Olivia came to my apartment alone. No chauffeur, no pearl earrings, no practiced smile, just a gray coat damp from Seattle drizzle. She stood at my door holding a grocery bag. "Hi, Mrs. Hayes," she said softly. "Margaret," I corrected. "Come in." She stepped inside, taking in the small space, plants by the window, a coffee mug half finished on the counter, Thomas's photo on the shelf beside a candle. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "Peaceful." "Peace is hard to decorate," I said. "It takes time." She smiled faintly, setting the bag down. "I brought soup. My mom said I should apologize with something expensive, but I figured you'd rather something real." "That's the smartest thing you've said since I met you," I replied, and she laughed, blinking back tears. Over dinner, Olivia spoke honestly, maybe for the first time. "I grew up thinking success meant control," she said. "My mom measured love in carats and square footage. I copied her without realizing it, until that night. When I saw you, calm, while everyone else was performing." She hesitated, eyes glossy. I envied that peace. I stirred my soup slowly. Peace doesn't come from having more. It comes from needing less. But you'll learn if you stop measuring yourself by other people's scales. Olivia nodded, wiping her eyes. Ben told me you refused to sell your apartment, I smiled. Why would I sell the one place where my husband still laughs in the walls? She covered her mouth, exhaling shakily. I don't know if my mother can ever understand that. Then stop trying to make her, I said. Start understanding yourself instead. When she left, she hugged me, not politely, not carefully, but like someone holding on to something she didn't know she needed. Thank you, Margaret, she whispered. For what? For showing me what wealth actually looks like. 2 weeks later, the hospital board met to finalize Judith's strategic real estate initiative. She walked into the conference room radiant, flanked by her lawyer and 3 investors. She looked surprised when she saw me seated near the head of the table. Margaret, she said cautiously, are you attending as a guest? As a voting member, I replied. Her face paled. You're on the board? I've been on the board for 12 years, I said calmly. The North Star Fund holds majority interest in St. Elora's infrastructure. That includes real estate. The silence that followed could have frozen air. Judith's lawyer cleared his throat, murmuring something about conflict of interest, but the chairman interrupted. Mrs. Hayes, your opinion carries significant weight in this matter. Thank you, I said. Then here it is. St. Elora is not for sale. Judith blinked, stunned. You're blocking progress, she hissed quietly. No, I said, I'm protecting purpose. Progress isn't always profitable. The vote was unanimous, in my favor. Judith gathered her papers, face tight as glass. You've made a powerful enemy, she muttered. I met her gaze. No, Judith. I've made peace with myself. That's stronger. That evening I walked out of the hospital and stood beneath the awning as the rain began again. Soft, persistent, cleansing. For the first time in a long while I let it fall on my face. Thomas used to say Seattle rain wasn't weather, it was memory, a quiet reminder that the world keeps washing itself, even when no one notices. And maybe that's what I'd done. Washed off other people's assumptions, one drop at a time. A month later, life settled into its gentle rhythm again. My shifts returned to normal. The nurses laughed in the break room. The vending machines still $8 bills. But something inside me had shifted, like the moment after a long-held breath finally escapes. Ben started visiting more often, not out of guilt anymore, but out of choice. He'd bring coffee and help me tend the small balcony garden his father had built. Sometimes we didn't even talk. We just listened to the city hum. It was enough. Olivia came too. No luxury handbags, no glossy hair appointments, just sneakers and warm laughter. One afternoon, as she watered the mint plants, she said quietly, You know, I used to think your silence was pride. I smiled. And now? Now I think it's strength. She hesitated, then added, I told my mom I won't be joining their real estate venture. She said I'm throwing away opportunity. And what did you say? I asked. I told her I was finally keeping my own. I reached over, squeezed her hand. Then you've already won. That night, after they left, I brewed tea and sat by the window. Across the street, the hospital lights glowed faintly through the mist, the same place I'd worked for years, the same corridors I'd walked in silence. People used to look past me. Now, when they saw me, they nodded with quiet respect. But it didn't make me proud. It made me grateful. Because true power was never in the spotlight. It lived in the shadows, steady, patient, waiting for the right moment to stand. I opened my old journal, the one Thomas gave me on our 10th anniversary. The pages smelled faintly of ink and time. On a blank line I wrote, Dignity doesn't raise its voice, It doesn't argue or prove, it simply endures until the noise fades. I set the pen down and looked around my small apartment. The warm lamp, the clock ticking gently, the faint rustle of rain. Everything here was modest, ordinary, peaceful, and yet it was more valuable than every diamond Judith Reynolds would ever own, because wealth isn't what fills a room, it's what fills a life, and mine, at last, was full.